and directed by Matteo. We are talking Book of the Dead. And you might have heard the phrase Book of the Dead used before, and unsurprisingly this is somewhat of a homage to the Evil Dead movies. So it focuses on 4 students that are going to do some research, and for some reason, we don't really know why, they are paying to stay in this kind of out-of-the-way lodge to do their research, and they are told by the owner not to go in the attic. So of course they decide to go in the attic and find a trunk with a bunch of stuff in there that includes, you've guessed it, the Book of the Dead. And this book pretty much looks like the Necronomicon from the Evil Dead movies, comes alive and summons demons and things to now possess and attack these 4 students. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. Right then, so let's talk about it. Now this is actually an Italian movie, but it is in English. The funny thing is the clearly Italian actors who are speaking in a thick Italian accent are meant to be American students. So let's discuss what works in this movie's favour. Okay, the good stuff. The practical makeup is good. So we have the Book of the Dead, which is kind of like a sort of puppet animated style, effect. It looks good. It looks similar to the Necronomicon from the Evil Dead movies, but it does look good. We have a demon. This is kind of like the thing that this book summons. Again, the VFX, the practical kind of like prosthetics, it looks good. It's a good design. It looks menacing. It's applied well. All great. We get possessed people. Looks good. So the practical VFX are great. The movie, in fairness, is filmed pretty well. There's actually some fairly good kind of like use of light in this movie. It's kind of like to the point where it looks a little unnatural. Like we have this kind of like red filter light coming from behind and stuff, or whether, what's making that. But it looks effective for a horror movie, if you know what I mean. Ultimately, you might say it's a little bit unrealistic lighting at times, but I think it has this kind of stylistic choice that looks good, and the movie is competently made in regards to its technical kind of ability. Certainly, what I'm talking about is photography, sound design, things like that. No problems with that. The story, albeit, is pretty unoriginal because it is more or less kind of the same story as Evil Dead. It's an okay idea for a story. It does try to have some kind of like comedic elements without being an out-and-out comedy, maybe like the second Evil Dead film. So there's some kind of goofier elements here that you might kind of lighten the mood to a degree. And the characters are all quite different from one another. You've got the girl with the tragic past, the nerd, the bully, the kind of the guy who sort of can't get out of his big brother's shadow, things like this. There's everyone has got their own sort of individual thing going on. So you could argue that the characters, they're kind of at least somewhat kind of different from one another. But that's pretty much where I would say the positives end. Let's talk about the negatives. Okay, here is the biggest problem with this film. The actors are clearly Italian actors speaking in their second language, and as such, the acting, unfortunately, is not particularly strong. I feel they maybe should have just gone with like the Italian language. There is a film called Wither, which I think is like Scandinavian or somewhere, some sort of like Northern European, and it's very much an Evil Dead homage, but it's spoken in their native language, and it's better because of it. And I feel maybe that would have been the thing here. So the acting isn't particularly strong. To go hand in hand with that, the pacing in this movie is actually quite poor. So as much as I would say on a technical element, it's fine. What doesn't work is the pace of the narrative. Because the first half of the movie is really no sort of supernatural stuff. So what we have is these 4 individuals who are not speaking their kind of home language, so to speak. And as such are trying to deliver half of the movie's worth of dialogue in a second language, and it's just not interesting. It's not good. I don't necessarily blame the actors, because this is not their first language. They're meant to be playing Americans. They're clearly not American. And yeah, the acting is not the strongest, unfortunately. The characters are maybe a little bit too broad. Okay, they're quite diverse from one another, you might say, in regards to sort of personality, but they seem like caricatures rather than characters in some respects, especially our nerdy guy who's just looks like he's watched too many Revenge of the Nerds films, to be honest. So yeah, the first half of the movie, I've got to be honest with you, is monotonous. Then we get to the actual supernatural stuff, which, as I say, looks good. But even those scenes go on. We have a scene where we're first introduced to this book and it sort of comes alive and starts talking. But boy, does this book talk a lot. I mean, it has this big monologue that just goes on for too long. And I think, okay, you've kind of lost the impact now. I get this is not meant to be a serious film necessarily, but this book is just talking for just too long. The scene's just going on for too long. And then we have this kind of, it summons this other demon that turns up, and it's just like hanging around for it. Again, these scenes just go on too long. What it doesn't have in the Evil Dead does is that zany, kinetic kind of energy that the original 2 Evil Dead movies have. That is absent from this movie. It might be a very similar story, but it does not have that pizzazz, nor does it have the charisma of someone like Bruce Campbell to make an interesting character. Instead, we're saddled with these 4 who, unfortunately, just because they're possibly not acting in their native tongue, are really struggling to deliver sort of lines with any kind of gusto, really. So as such, the movie is just ultimately quite dull. I mean, there's some fun things that happen, scenes in the movie, but the pacing's just horrible. Yeah, so I gotta say, this was actually somewhat of a movie where my brain was just wandering around going, a bit of cobweb up there. I wasn't engaged. Is it a horrible movie? No. How to rank it? I would say a 4 out of 10. I feel I'm being generous, to be honest, but I'll give it a 4 out of 10. So what I'm saying is it's below average, but not horrible. But there you go. Have you seen it? What were your thoughts? Please let me know, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.